So before we get into today's video and finding out whether I survived my first 200 days here in Minecraft Hardcore, these videos do take an extremely long time to make, edit, and produce. Go ahead and show some appreciation for these types of videos by liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. But enough with the endless self-promotion. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Let's go ahead and get into today's video. Day 101 began with me updating my computer to Windows 11. So I apologize that there are no Minecraft sounds because it had changed the default to something different. So there are no Minecraft sounds. So again, I do apologize for that. But ultimately what I wanted to be able to do was explore this massive cave that I had found in the original 100 days. It is directly below where I want my base to be at, so I wanted to light it up as much as I possibly could because it was going to help with other things later on. When I was down and exploring the cave, I actually found a dripstone area, so I wanted to go over there, at least grab a few of the blocks because I think that these are going to be able to be incorporated into some of the builds I have planned for later really nicely, and I also wanted the dripstone for a dripstone farm. Then beyond that, I decided that I wanted to have an automatic farm that was going to be based with villagers. So we're talking carrot, potatoes, and wheat. Those things, I hated actually getting those manually, so why not have villagers do it since I have enough villagers to actually go ahead and solve this issue with. I started actually mimicking out. I built this area completely up and started working on a wall that was going to be more organic. I also wanted to be able to texturize it as much as I possibly could. Plus, I wanted to be able to keep all the mobs out, so I needed to make it high enough so that none of the skeletons would shoot any of my villagers and no other like zombies would actually get in there. However, I do have a cliff face that's actually behind this area that you guys can actually see in the footage right now. And that's actually why I had placed torches all along the backside, because at the very beginning I was actually getting a couple zombies that would fall in, but since I've done that, there wasn't anything actually happening anymore, which is fantastic. Beyond that, I started actually planting this area and moving some of the villagers over so that they could actually do this job for me. Starting on this day, I finally wanted to go ahead and clean up the area that I had just got done previously working on, and that is dealing with villagers, which took way longer than I ever anticipated. 6 days, Minecraft days in general. After that, I wanted to set out and find every log type, or at least more of every log type than I had previously found. I started with dark oak because that was the first thing that I had found. I'd only found a very small quantity of that, but I was actually looking for all of the saplings that it dropped, so I didn't have to continuously go out away from where my area was going to be in order to harvest this. I wanted to be able to plant them where I was located and find every log type beyond that. I needed to take a nap because it was kind of getting nighttime, and actually you just saw me for the first time finding spruce. It took me over 100 days to find any spruce. I also found acacia for the first time in over 100 days in a hardcore series. And then while I was actually in the savannah, I actually spotted a village. This is like one of 4 villages that I found on this adventure. They were all crap anyway. They didn't give me anything good. I did find a couple of bees though, and I wanted to be able to harvest their beehive and actually get the bees in them, because all the hives that I had found previously, all the bees were now missing, which is weird. I spawned a couple bees, and look at that, he's cute. After that, I actually spotted these guys. I really don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were looking for, if they were looking for me. I was really nearby a village, but actually, I think they just wanted to go skinny dipping in the nearby river, so I'll just let them be and do their own thing. I ventured out again and found a jungle biome, which I had found earlier. I also found a temple right at the edge of the jungle biome, which was really nice. So I decided to actually be really nice and supportive of the environment and take down pretty much the entire jungle temple and rid it of its existence, because I didn't want it to impact the environment in any way. I also found this panda, so I was going to try to keep him in this area so that I could actually obtain him later, though this was pretty far out compared to where my base was actually located. But he's a dummy and decided to roll out and hurt himself, and I really don't know what he was doing. Continuing into day 120, I was still doing some exploring, but this was a little bit different. I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to accomplish. So while I was exploring, I found these snow-capped mountains, and I found my first ever in Minecraft snow fox, which was absolutely amazing. I continued to do some exploring, and I really liked the way the snow-capped mountains looked, and I thought about making them my home. Continuing on, I found another village, and like I mentioned earlier, the villages that I had found in this entire exploration process were garbage. I mean, I got nothing from it. However, this one was slightly different, but because behind it, there was some calcite, and I really wanted a lot of this, and I hadn't found a geode really yet that would allow me to actually have a lot of calcite that I needed. Venturing on foot, I found my first ever powdered snow, and it really startled me at first. I was actually really excited, but I was trying to take myself a screenshot, and then I actually stepped forward and sank in really deep, and this really scared me. I thought I was actually going to die, but I never actually even came close. So once I actually dug myself out of the situation, I got my rockets out and I decided to get the heck out of Dodge. So on my way back home, or at least venturing back towards where my current base is, since I don't technically have a home, I found these snow-capped mountains, and I really like the way that they look. This one had ice in it, which was a little bit different than the ones that I had discovered prior. Found some goats, which I thought were cool, but look at these things. These things are awesome. That's natural. I didn't do any of that. Found a villager, or at least a wandering trader in my base. He needed to die because I didn't like him, and I wanted to keep his llamas for myself, but they didn't like the idea, so I had to scurry. I found another kitty cat in the area, and this one actually reminds me of my real cat, Smokey, so I wanted to tame him, and now he loves me, and he can guard the pumpkin patch. So good job, Smokey. I started this day by trading with the villagers, and that's actually nothing unusual, but I quickly moved on to gathering other resources that I needed for future builds. Stone, cobblestones, you name it, whatever I could get my hands on. I continued lighting up the massive cave that was actually below my base, and I'm using the mini HUD mod just in case you guys are interested to find out what the light levels are. It makes it really easy. I needed more coal, but it was going by really slow, and I went back to the nether fortress that I had found in the first 100 days and started gathering more wither skeleton skulls. Now, if you guys didn't watch the first one, I was able to kill my very first wither skeleton and got a skull from the very first one. It was absolutely amazing. Very nearby the first nether fortress was another nether fortress, making it really easy to get all three of my wither skeleton skulls that I needed to be able to go ahead and fight the wither. This fight was actually really easy. He didn't even hit me once, if you really want to call it a he, and I was able to actually go ahead and get the nether star and was able to craft up my very first beacon, which I'm very excited for. Then eventually I gathered my iron from my crappy iron farm and eventually got Beaconator along with Bring Home the Beacon. I started this day by continuing to gather up supplies like I do a majority of my days, but I wanted this to start my first redstone based farm. Initially I thought about making a moss farm, but I thought about it long and hard and figured that the drops that I was going to get from this moss farm just weren't going to be that valuable. So I decided to refocus my direction and make an all-purpose mob farm. Now, if you guys want a tutorial for this mob farm, I do have one on my channel. This one is just slightly different than that, so go ahead and check it out. I was visited by a wandering trader in the middle of the night. Thought it was kind of weird because I've only seen them pop up during the middle of the day, but this is what my mob farm looks like so far with a lot of the levels in place. As I was actually building this mob farm, I was visited by a creeper and it scared the crap out of me and lost over half my health. I was actually very startled at that point in time. But as you can see, the mob farm is actually working out really good. So I decided to actually spend a full day just AFKing there, just so that I could get a lot of the drops that I was going to need. I went over to the villager farms that I had previously created. I wanted to check a couple things. I wanted to make sure that the villagers were still alive, and number two, I wanted to make sure that I was receiving product from the farms, in which I was, to my surprise. I went back to the village and started doing some odds and ends, but ultimately I needed to craft up a ton of rockets because I had an idea of what I could do next. So I made my way back to the stronghold, and let me just tell you that I absolutely hate this place with a passion because I can never find the stupid end portal. I did find my geode, however, so I decided that I was going to collect a few of the goodies from this location just so that I could have them on hand. Eventually, I did find the end portal because ultimately what I wanted to do was do a little bit of end busting. Yes, I wanted to kill a ton of shulkers. I almost lost and left my sword behind, but thank goodness I realized it and was able to retrieve it. But when I got to this end city, it was a little bit different. It was very wealthy with diamonds, 12 in total just from these two chests, but I quickly realized that I didn't have any wood on me or a crafting table, which was not very good. So I went all the way back to my village just to get a stupid crafting table and eventually made my way back towards the end. Yep, that was a big waste of time. But ultimately, I can't really show you a ton of end busting because it's really not that entertaining or fun. This is a highlight here, as a lot of Endermen were trying to give me hugs, which I did not really like or enjoy. I felt a little violated, but at least I was able to find a ton of end cities in the process. After a few days of spending time in the end, I returned home with a ton of goodies. During the evening, I was feeding my pigs, and a creeper decided to say hello to me and released all of my pigs. I had to do a little bit of slaughtering and had to ultimately breed up the pigs again, but that's okay, I had a ton of them anyway. I returned back to the nether because I needed more gold for future projects that I was going to need gold for, like powered rails. While looking for gold, I found a few more pieces of ancient debris as well, so that I could eventually use them for future tools. Also, while in the nether, I decided that I needed to get up to the nether roof so that I could easily traverse from one place to another. Now, I only have a couple portals up here at this point in time, but eventually I'll have more portals leading around the world, and it will make it easy to go ahead and get around. When I actually made my first portal, I ended up in a cave underground and ultimately needed to move that portal above ground, and everything was eventually connected up. I decided that I needed to spend some quality time with some of my pets. This one specifically because it was going to be important later on. This iron golem was partying with the pigs, and then I went into the nether to start gathering more resources. If you guys know why I'm gathering a ton of magma, then go ahead and leave a comment down below. But ultimately, I spent quite a long time actually gathering this, as there wasn't a lot of magma very close to where my portal was actually at. Once I was actually out of the nether, I went back towards where my base was at, if you want to call it that at this point in time, and gathered up a lot of other resources that I was going to need. I dyed some of the glass because I needed a ton of glass for the project that I was going to be working on. Putting a lot of glass and sand into the smelter, and honestly, this is what it was like for the next couple of days. While actually placing sand inside of the smelter, I realized that my cat had drowned. I needed to figure out which cat it was because I was actually really distraught and disappointed of what had happened. It was the cat that I actually had just said hello to previously. After launching the replay mod, it was this guy that caused all the problems. Over the next 16 days, I spent time building a gold farm. So if you guys had guessed gold farm to my previous question, then you would be absolutely correct. Not only did I want the gold so that I could barter with piglins later, I also wanted the experience points so that I could either bend my tool or just have the experience points on hand for any other reason. However, I did significantly under gather for this specific project, and yes, it is an Ilmango design, but I did make some modifications to it so it is slightly different. And it's honestly, to this day, not 100% finished yet. But I had to keep going back and getting magma, and then I had to go back to the desert to get sand so that I could stand around and do nothing and ultimately get the glass. But in the end, I was able to finish up the project for the most part and was able to get more experience points and more experience in mending than I could never know what to do with. I spent about 20 minutes AFKing at the gold farm or so, and I quickly realized that I needed to make some kind of disposal system. I also worked on finishing up the glass because ultimately I had to wait for it to smelt back up at the base anyway, and then I decided to actually gather up more resources, and I absolutely love having haste too. Then I started building a bridge all the way from where my current village was all the way back to Spawn Island, and that was a very long process. It took me about a full Minecraft day to do that. I also decided to light up the entire spawn area, and yes, I am using the mini HUD map or mod for this. I absolutely love it. It's easily configurable, so you guys can easily identify where the light levels are low enough so that you know where spawns will actually take place, and you can go in and fix it. Then I just wasted some time, flew around the mob farm for a little bit, and love how absolutely amazing this thing is working in the grand scheme of things. Thank you for all the drops to you wonderful mob farm. At the start of the next series of days, I was chasing around a few animals that I wanted to be my friends. I was really lonely at this point in time. Can you blame me? But there was other creatures that wanted to quote-unquote be my friends. I just didn't really feel the same way that they were. Anyway, I finally sat down and started building my villager breeder here at Spawn Island. That will eventually be the industrial district. But if you guys would like a tutorial on this villager breeder, I do have one on my channel. The one on my channel is actually a better version because I made some modifications that ultimately made the villager breeder a much better farm in the long run. I decided that it was a good idea to move my 2 villagers at night. Why I decided to do this, I really don't know. I could have just slept and did it during the day, but it all worked out fine and dandy. They eventually were making some love hearts, and at the same time, a wandering trader decided to show up. I don't know if he wanted to join them or if he just felt left out. Either way, it was kind of strange. Eventually, I did get a baby villager, and then just a couple minutes later, I got my second one. So the villager breeder is actually working out perfectly. Decided to clean up the mess because I had made a bridge 800 blocks long, so it was time to clean up my mess. The next thing I did is basically watch some paint dry by trying to get 2 turtles to try to breed up together. It took a long time. This turtle decided that he didn't want to lay eggs, he just wanted to poop them out instead. It was kind of strange. Then I decided at the end of this series of days I was going to make a big square. If you know what it's used for, leave a comment down below. After finishing up the villager breeder, I decided to let it sit for just a little bit, and hopefully when I return, there'll be more villagers for me. I found more treasure maps that led me to treasure that I had already found, and decided that I needed to do a little bit more exploring. I found a couple more trident wielding guys. The first time that I had encountered one of these guys, I was not ready and almost died right away at the beginning of my hardcore series, but now I felt a little bit more ready and confident. I found about 5 of these guys, but none of them dropped anything worthwhile, just pretty much rotten flesh. When I was actually returning back home, I spotted an ocean monument, so I knew what I wanted my next big project to be. And this was actually relatively close to my house. So I set out looking for puffer fish. I also needed to actually do a little bit of crafting when it came to like spider eyes and getting those all ready and making more potions. So water breathing potions and potions of invisibility is what I was looking for. I set back into the nether to gather more soul sand. And then eventually I went back into the end, which I had to spend a lot more time looking for to get some of the obsidian that I was going to need, because I was going to be building a guardian-based portal farm. Now at this point in time, it should be very obvious what I plan on doing with my last few days of this hardcore world. I plan on building a guardian farm out of the ocean monument that we had just discovered. Not only did I have to wait around for a lot more glass to actually go ahead and smelt, this definitely seems to be a reoccurring theme, and I'll probably have to design a super smelter at some point very soon because I'm always running out of glass. Not only did I have to wait for the glass, but I had to wait for the potions and everything else, and I thought I had enough supplies to go ahead and finish this entire project, but in the end I had to keep going back to the nether to get more soul sand. Now if you guys have never raided an ocean monument before, they are really simple, but I have more tips and tricks on my channel if you guys would like to go ahead and check that out. Otherwise I'll go ahead and give some of them right now. Craft your guys yourself up a whole bunch of invisibility potions and water breathing potions. Get a couple pieces of TNT, blocks of redstone, and then go ahead and blow holes into the top. Once you get mining fatigue, it will make it incredibly difficult to go ahead and break through everything. That's why you need the pieces of TNT. Just blow a hole in the top of it. There's 3 Elder Guardians in 3 different locations that you need to basically go ahead and to get taken care of. But for whatever reason, I had previously shown that an Elder Guardian wasn't exactly where they were supposed to be. This ocean monument had a ton of overgrowth for whatever reason, so I decided to spend basically 10 full minutes to go ahead and get rid of it. I only found 1 sponge room inside of this temple, so I will have to go ahead and explore it a little bit later to see if I can actually find more. Building the farm is actually really easy. It's just going to be a portal-based guardian farm. I think I said guardian-based portal farm earlier, so I'm not really sure how the guardians are going to run the portal, but eventually they do. But this one is a shulkercraft design. I don't really think I made too many modifications. There was a couple, but not very many in the grand scheme of things. But if you guys would like a full tutorial on this, by all means, leave a comment down below, because these things are very easy to build. I built this in less than 6 Minecraft days, so it really doesn't take that long. Obviously, we have to go into the nether to place down our collection system, because that's where all of our guardians are going to end up. So this storage system will have to be fairly large, and ultimately, I would like to send it back to the overworld, but that's going to be a time for something a little bit later. Place down a ton of soul sand, basically on the top of the ocean monument, around the structure that you just got done creating up above. and then go ahead and basically destroy the platform that you had made, light up the portal, and you're pretty much good to go. All you need to do at this point in time is sit back, relax, and collect all the drops. These are the drops that I was able to collect in only about 10 minutes of sitting at the Guardian farm. I spent my 200th day doing the things that I pretty much do every single day, but I don't necessarily always show on camera. That is attending to all of the farms, trading with the villagers to get as many emeralds that I can so I can get more books or other resources. I bred up the villagers inside of the villager trading hall to make sure that all of the beds were full and taken care of. I also used some of the levels that I had received from the gold farm to craft up a brand new bow, which was definitely needed. Then basically, as the sun was rising on the 201st day, because I wanted to finish a full 200 days, this is what you guys are left with. I do appreciate you guys watching my 100th to the 200th day. If you haven't checked out my previous video, please make sure that you guys go ahead and check that out now. If you guys would like more of these types of videos, by all means, go ahead and smack that like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It tells me more than you guys will ever know and understand, and I very much appreciate all of you. But until next time, YouTube, you guys keep doing what you're doing because you're already doing it, and you guys stay gaming.